Yeah, so we thought a really cool thing to talk about today would be we've been getting some really interesting inquiries into Prospector's data set on like leadership demographics for mining companies of all sizes.
Next month, on June 15th, is the International Day of Women in Mining. So we thought this would be a really cool introduction to let everybody know that that's coming up next month, but also kind of discuss women in mining and,
looking at, what's the breakdown of percent female. I think Emily will dive into this a bit more, but the net is about a little more than 12.5% of all directors or board involved individuals or C-level executives across mining companies that are publicly traded. And it's about 12.5% of them are female versus male. Something like CEO, right? It's the percentage is actually more like 7.28 of all individuals out there are female versus male. But what's interesting is that for like the secretary position on the board, it's 42.5%. So it's a little intriguing as you start getting into, some of the what position do women versus men hold in the companies, and we can even look at overall compensation and the differences amongst it. So.
No, and that's where I think like when we start to look at that by market cap, the differences also become much more clear. Right. So as an example, 61% of the total female leaders in the mining space, so 61% of women who are on a board or in executive management are working at companies that their market cap is over $1 billion. Right. I mean, it's heavily concentrated within big companies, and that pool gets much smaller. So only 10% of female leaders within the mining industry are working at companies or on the board of companies that are $50 million and below in terms of market cap. If you've been paying attention to these discussions over the last several years, the big companies are trying to set goals for diversity and inclusion of a bunch of different underrepresented groups, and it's taking a while for that to maybe come down to the smaller company level. It also validates a frustration that I oftentimes hear from the executives of the smaller companies that are trying to achieve diversity goals, where they're saying it's really hard to compete with a big company, right? If I'm trying to convince a certain really qualified woman to join our executive team or our board, I can't compete with these massive companies and the packages that they can offer.